All right, Mopar people, welcome back to the channel. I'm just Mopar Joe. Today we're looking at the cheapest or most inexpensive pair of headers that you can buy for a big block Mopar right now. So this is January of 24. There may be cheaper ones out there later, but probably not. And I wanted to make a video about this because these are like Chevrolet prices, cheap, inexpensive. Anyway, let me show you what they are. This is from DNA Motoring, and this is what the box came in looking like. It's pretty terrible. There's a batch number. I don't know if that's the part number or not, but the shipping label I went ahead and ripped off, but it said these were 33 pounds. So fairly heavy duty headers. They have a hole basically in every side of the box. I'm going to get them out and opened up. There's a flange. I can already tell the flange looks pretty thick. I know a lot of Chevy guys do actually like these DNA headers. Like I said, this is an eBay special, and it said they were ordered for a Ramcharger. Let me get them out and let's look. All I did was cut our box open. First impression, the stuff looks pretty good. Here's the actual collector size they give you. It's a ball and socket, kind of like a Headman style, and then it reduces and then reduces again. I think what I would want to do is try to run these into a 3-inch exhaust pipe. So just kind of finding up here wherever my 3-inch pipe best fits, mark it, cut it, weld that together, and then save the rest of that for something else later. The flanges are really nice and thick. Maybe that's for a heat riser if you had one. This looks like a different kind of reducer that would hook up if you were going to a much smaller pipe, like a 2-inch pipe. I probably wouldn't do that on a big block Mopar, but they're free. They came with the header. That looks really good. They had a little bit of ugly spot right there. I don't know if you can see it or not, and then they tried to grind it off and polish it, so whether or not that's a hole, I can't really tell, but it had some porosity. Flanges look pretty thick. I want to measure. They show a measurement online from here to here, but I wanted to compare this to the trick flow heads that I've got over there just to see what they're like. They're tacked up on the outside of the flanges, and then looks like fully welded on the inside, so that looks good. That one's in the port just a little bit, but these are supposed to be for, they listed it for a Ramcharger. I'm assuming it would work fine in a truck as well. Not that I have a truck project or anything secretly coming up or anything like that, but I thought I would try them and buy them, use them on our run stand, maybe take them to the dyno. I don't know, when we do our dyno 440. Within the next month or so. So that is driver side. It looks pretty good. Gaskets and hardware. The gaskets don't actually look too bad. They give you super long metric bolts. See that 8.8? But I'm assuming the other bolts, they look very nice and thick. That looks good. I don't know if they'll be rusted over in a week or 3 or whatever, but I mean, just like a normal painted header would. I'm surprised at how thick that flange is. I'm gonna measure that for us in just a second. But that's our driver's side. Let me lay these out. Here's our handy dandy Harbor Freight caliper. 1/613. About the same. I think they claim it to be a little bit larger because it necks down right there, which I don't mind it necking down if it can help the flow some. I believe they call it 1 3/4 inches, which it's not, a little less. Can't really cry about cheap Chinese headers. 14705. Let's compare that to, these are the Trick Flow 240s that Ed did a little massaging on. He said we did not change the shape of the port or the width of the port. There we go, just inside. Inch 605. I would say that works. I wouldn't be scared of that. If you wanted to take a die grinder and just barely cut some, you could. We're good for width. We're plenty good on height. See that? Awesome. Check the port spacing. From edge to edge. From edge to edge. It doesn't do us any good if the ports themselves are not aligned very well. Let me try this. Edge to edge of that. Okay. Yeah, it just barely makes it. So they could have widened the tubes out just a little bit, but again, those are trick flow 240s. So maybe a 906 or something would be a little bit more narrow there. Quick plug check. That's with a 90-degree boot. I would say that passes. You could run your wire just like that. Let's move on down the line real quick. Also a mile of room on this one. You can plug right from the top, loom it onto your valve cover, wire tie together there. Same thing on the front plug. Looks great. I know these are angle plugged heads, so keep that in mind. If this plug was straight, it would still have a mile of room. This one would actually get a little closer to the tube if it was straight. And same thing here. So we may need to check those. Here's driver's side. I can fit a whole finger between that one. Same thing here. That passes. If you had a fiberglass boot or something to go on as well, that would help, but I can still get a pinky between there, so use your best judgment. It's not touching right now, and you could loop it backwards. I probably wouldn't loop it through here just because it would get closer to that tube, but if these were straight plugged heads, it would move it away from that tube. Let's check our straight plug heads. Here's my 440 source head, and you'd have to remember I've got a short block sitting around here somewhere that needs a set of heads, and I did a little work to these heads on the channel, and I now have a set of headers for a truck, so it's kind of all, seems like it's falling together. This has a mile of room around that plug. I was worried about our inside too, and it looks like the plug placement may be a little bit more favorable on these. It's a little bit tight right there. I've ran headers that were tighter than that last time on the dyno, and it actually burned a couple boots. So yes, they make ceramic boots out there. Yes, they make short plugs. I'm just showing you what these look like with the standard plug, and I bet you a 906 would be very similar to this. Let's check one more and we'll be good. This has a mile over here, so I'm going to call this basically free and clear. It's slightly more room than the other side. I think that would be fine and live its life happy there. So there is our cheap header on a 440 source head as well. I wanted to measure the primary tubes and actual collector size. I know what they claim it to be. Actually, they don't tell you what the primary size is. It looks pretty decent. Slightly over 1 3/4 inches. So I bet you the inside diameter may be 1 3/4 inches. I think they look plenty big for probably anything under 500 horse. Would be super happy to have these. You could probably stick 600 horse through it if you wanted to. Collector. Yeah, I'm gonna call it 3-inch. If you'll remember, I did a 413 build a while back for a buddy of mine named Mike, and he had, I believe he bought some Doug's, no, he bought some Hooker ceramic coated headers, And they're pretty similar to like these on the wall here. These are for our Little Red Express engine that's being machined right now. So these are a pretty expensive header. They do come coated. And if you look at the collector on them, which this will be fine for what we're doing, it was a 2.5 inch. So we're gonna have 2.5 inch pipes on that. On the other Hooker ceramic coated header, which was probably near $600, they give you a 3-inch collector, and then they put that exact flange right there on the end of it. So he wanted to run 3-inch exhaust pipe, and he had to buy a collector extension that actually enlarged that to a 3-inch pipe. So let me show you a 3-inch pipe on here. If you see the major difference, which again, these are beautifully perfect headers, and they will suit our purpose for that engine. But if you had a big block like this that should be over 500 horsepower easily, you would probably want a 3-inch collector on there, especially on a race car type deal. So keep that in mind. I just wanted to show y'all. I'm not sure if DNA, y'all check on eBay, see if DNA makes headers for cars and whatever. I have no idea if these will fit in a truck or not. They do look very similar to truck headers that I bought in the past, so they probably are going to be close. And for the price, if I have to cut and move 2 or 3 tubes, it does not bother me at all because they were so inexpensive. Hopefully that helps somebody. We're trying to beat the Mopar tax any way we can. I realize they're from China, made in China. A lot of things now are made in China, probably including this digital caliper I'm using, but that's our world. Anyway, I appreciate y'all watching, and I'll catch you next time.